Howdy folks, welcome to module 13 of the CompTIA A+ course. Today's module is called Managing Windows. Now guys, this is a direct follow-up on the previous module which was called Configuring Windows. The previous module was literally the basics of Windows. So for those of you that don't have a lot of experience yet on Windows, that module is intended for you. Now, if you do have some experience, or if you gained some experience in the previous module, this module is for you. This one is going to be a little bit more advanced. So in this module, we're going to tackle more advanced things like the system tools, admin tools, things like that. So today's module, folks, of course, this is still based on the 1200 series. Today's module consists of 3 main sections. The first section I'm going to be tackling with you guys is something called management consoles. So there, we're going to be taking a look at various management consoles built into the Windows operating system. The majority, if not all of them, are built into both the client operating systems as well as the server operating systems. So stay tuned for that. After that, we'll be taking a look at performance and troubleshooting tools. This will be things like resource monitor, performance monitor, event viewer, and so on and so forth. And then we'll move into the third and the last main section in this video, which is going to be about command line tools. So there we'll show you guys a couple of basic command line tools that you guys can go and make use of. Now, all 3 of these sections are beneficial for the exam because they will ask you about all of these things in the exam. But they're also beneficial in everyday life, guys. These are all tools and consoles that can be used in your everyday life. So, yeah, how about that? Right, folks, before we jump into it, if you haven't done it, please support the channel. Give the channel some love by giving it a like. I really do appreciate when you guys do that, so don't be a weenie. And if you'd like to know when the next module goes live, maybe consider subscribing. For those of you that are interested in practice questions, so if you go to the end of this playlist, assuming you're in the playlist, at the very end of the playlist, you'll find practice questions. Those are designed to test you on the same objectives that the exam will test you on, and they'll measure you on the same skills. If you want more material over and above that, feel free to check out my Patreon. There you'll find additional material. And I think with that, guys, let's go jump into that first main section. Right, the first section, management consoles. Alright, so I'm going to take you guys into a tool called Device Manager first. This is something that a lot of you guys might have heard of. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you've used it, maybe not. So Device Manager, guys, there's a bit of a picture for you guys if you want a little context. This tool's purpose, or this console's purpose, is to show you all the hardware that's installed on this machine. So whether it be a client machine, whether it be a server, its purpose is to show you all the hardware that's installed on this machine. Now, it's obviously not just going to show you what hardware is installed. It will also show you whether these hardwares have been disabled, if they're enabled, whether they've got drivers installed, whether it's the correct driver that's installed, and you'll be able to do things like install drivers, rollback drivers, amongst many other things. So, this tool is obviously called Device Manager. If you would like to open this with a command, so if you go into the run command and you would like to go and type something in there to get this to pop up, that will be the def mgmt.msc command. I'm probably butchering the name there, but that's effectively what you have to go and type in. If you were to go and type that into, well, the run command, you'll see that's going to actually get Device Manager to open up. There's many ways you guys can go and open Device Manager. How you do it at the end of the day, that's up to you. You can go right click on Start. That works on Windows 10 and Windows 11. It doesn't work on operating systems older than Windows 10 though. So on Windows 10 and 11, you can go right click on the Start button. It's going to show you some admin tools, not all of them. One of them is the Device Manager. Alternatively, you can go to your administrative tools. How you go there is up to you. You can go into your control panel. You can go to your system. You can go to your admin tools in there. There it will be listed. You can go into MMC, which is short for Microsoft Management Console. That's actually also something we're going to be discussing today. When you go in there, you can go and add it as a snap-in. So there's many ways. And then, guys, you can probably go and run a search for it too. If you just go to Cortana or your little search bar, you can go run a search for Device Manager. It's going to pop up there too. So what can this be used for, you ask? Well, like I said, you can go and use this to update drivers or just install drivers. If you have no driver installed yet for a device, it's going to show you a yellow exclamation mark on that device. A yellow exclamation mark, folks, can mean one of two things. It either means no drivers installed, or it means the incorrect drivers installed. Now, CompTIA doesn't tell us statistically what the stats are for no driver installed versus incorrect driver installed. So usually if you see an exclamation mark in real life, I would say 95 to 99% of the time it means no driver is installed. Very rarely will Device Manager know that you've installed the wrong driver or the user has installed the wrong driver. Normally if you install a driver, the Device Manager is going to assume it's the correct driver. So if you install a driver for a printer, it's not necessarily going to tell you that it's the wrong driver if it is the wrong driver. Instead, you or the user will just notice weird symptoms. It might just not work at all. The printer will print skew. It's going to make a mess. It might print weird symbols. So there's going to be symptoms. Let me put it that way. And then it's up to you or the user to figure out that, you know what? I think we might have the wrong driver here, guys. So generally, if the wrong driver is installed, it's not going to tell you. From experience, I can tell you the only times that machines generally pick up a wrong driver installed is if you go and take the hard drive out of your computer, like an organ, and you transplant it into a different computer with different hardware. When you start that computer back up now with your hard drive in a different computer, it's going to notice, hang on a moment, my hardware has changed. My graphics card's different, my motherboard's different, my network card's different, and everything is different. So it's going to assume then that the drivers are incorrect, especially if it sees it still has the same drivers as before. So that is when you might see a yellow exclamation mark, which means incorrect driver. But in real life, usually if you see an exclamation mark, guys, it means no driver is installed. You need to go and install a driver for that specific device. If you don't know what a driver is, by the way, think of this as a translator. So your hardware, something like your graphics card, on its own, it's not really able to communicate with your operating system being Windows 10 or Windows 11 or something. So we need something in between. Think of this as a translator, like I said. So if you speak English and somebody else speaks something else like Spanish, on your own, you two probably won't be able to communicate. So you need a translator. Somebody that speaks both English and Spanish or whatever two languages this might be. So if that person is fluent in both languages, communication would occur between you and this other individual. But if they speak both languages but they're not fluent, yeah, communication is going to occur, but it's not going to be fluent, it's not going to be smooth. From time to time, you're going to have miscommunication. Now, why am I saying this? Because you do get drivers out there which are not what we call digitally signed. If it's a signed driver, which most drivers are, it means it's tested. It's guaranteed to work. If it's not a signed driver, yeah, it could work. Could work, could not work. You never know. If it does work, there might be a couple of bugs and glitches because it has not been tested, has not been signed off on. So if you're going to be using a non-signed driver, you are taking a leap of faith. Generally, as a rule of thumb, we use tested drivers, signed drivers, guys. So a driver is like a translator. Now, using Device Manager, we can install drivers if there's none installed. So if you see a yellow exclamation mark, you can go and right-click on the device, and you can go and click on the driver tab, like we see that screenshot. You can go click on that little button there. It says Update Driver. And from there, you can go and, well, install the driver wherever it might be. If it's on a disk, which is very unlikely these days, you can go and choose the disk and install from there. If it's been downloaded, it's probably going to be in your downloads folder or wherever you downloaded this to. And you can go and choose that location, and you can go and install it from there. So in a nutshell, as I've just said, we can go and update drivers with Device Manager or install them. You can also use Device Manager to go and disable devices. Now, should a device be disabled, you guys will see on that device's icon, you're going to see a small little white circle with a little black arrow pointing downwards. That means the device in question has been disabled for whatever reason. And if you want to enable it, you literally just go and right click on it and click on the option that says enable again. So why we do that? Well, there's many reasons. Most often it's to disable it temporarily, and I just turn it back on again to see if there's not any bugs or glitches. Most commonly, you'll find technicians doing this with something like the network card. And then something I have mentioned, but it is a bullet point, no driver or incorrect driver. So as I've said, if you see an exclamation mark, a yellow one, it means no drivers installed or the incorrect drivers installed. That, guys, is a possible question in the exam. Most of the questions in the exam will be multiple choice. They will ask you a question, they'll present you 4 possible answers. You need to choose one in most cases. Ever so often, you might be required to choose more than one answer, and ever so often, you might be presented with what they call an exhibit. It's a screenshot of something, in this case, device manager. And in that screenshot in the exam, should you be the unfortunate soul that gets this question, you will see a yellow exclamation mark on something. This might be something like the network adapter. Now they might say the user moans and groans, they can't access the internet. What could be a possible reason for this? And if you look at the screenshot, you'll see something like the network adapter that's got a yellow exclamation mark. Now I've already told you guys, the exclamation mark can mean one of two things. Either no drivers installed or incorrect drivers installed. In the exam, that is what you need to look for in the answer choices. They will not give you both because both is correct. They'll either give you the one or the other. So whichever one you see, you choose that and you move on. And then folks, if need be, which is very rare, you can go and use Device Manager to go and uninstall a device. Alright, now before we move on to the next topic, let me show you guys in a real Device Manager what this looks like. So up until now, I've just been showing you guys this image, in this presentation. Let me open Device Manager for real. So just a second. Here we go.
A few moments later.
There we go, folks. There is a real Device Manager. So you can see it looks very much the same as the image we've just seen. If I were to go and click on something, let's say Display Adapter, it's going to show you all the graphics cards you may or may not have installed. Should I install another one? Since I already have a graphics card, it's not going to create a new category. Instead, it's just going to chuck it into this category here. So if I go and add, for example, another hard drive, it's just going to go and add it to, well, my existing hard drives. It's not going to go make a new category here because I already have hard drives installed. But if you go and install a new piece of hardware, which is something you have not previously had on this machine, you don't have anything else like it. Let's say you install a webcam and you did not previously have a webcam. Or you go and install a microscope or whatever. It will actually add a new category here and you'll have to expand a new category to see that new installed item. So you can see there I can go onto a device like my graphics card. Should I need to update the drivers, I can go right click on it and click on update driver like so. You can click on that. Here it allows me to go and search online automatically for drivers, but most of the time you're going to find that doesn't work. 99% of the time it doesn't pick up anything. It's not that Microsoft doesn't have the driver, it just seems to be a linking issue between where the drivers are hosted and your machine. So usually you're going to have to go run a search for this. Well, in this case it's a graphics card. You'll have to run a search for this and you go and download the drivers from the manufacturer's website. And once you've downloaded, you'll have to click here where it says browse my computer, and then there you can go and browse to where it's downloaded to, probably your downloads folder, and you can just go and install it from there. Other things you guys can go and do is if I right click here, you can see I can disable the device, I can uninstall the device, or I can go here to properties, driver tab. Here I can also go and update the driver. There's an option that you guys will be asked about in the exam. I guarantee you this is a question you're going to get in the exam. Rollback driver. At the moment, you'll notice this button cannot be clicked on. So at the moment, it's because I only have one driver installed for this component, which in this case is a graphics card. So when you install Windows, it tends to install most of the drivers for most of your hardware components. That will be your first driver, which is installed by Windows, and we refer to that as a generic driver. Now, if you were to go and install another driver afterwards for that component, so in this case, it's a graphics card. As soon as I have one extra driver installed, this button now becomes available because there's a previous driver and then there's the current driver. So if this current driver turns out to not work out, maybe it's defective, it's causing all kinds of weird shenanigans, it's misbehaving, whatever the case might be, I can go here into Device Manager, open that hardware component, in this case the graphics card. I can then go and click on rollback driver and it's going to roll back specifically that driver for specifically that device. Now the kind of questions you guys can expect in the exam about this is they might say user 1 has installed a blah 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 driver for blah 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 and now the machine is misbehaving. Which of the following options can user 1 use that's going to require the least amount of administrative effort? You will notice they love using the word best, least, or most. Those words, they absolutely love using those words in the exam. Those words are usually highlighted in capital letters. Sometimes they might even be in bold in the exam. It's to draw attention to the fact that there's more than one answer that's correct here. They want to see and test to see if you know which one is the better answer, the more correct answer. Now most of the time they'll give you 4 possible answers, of which 2 normally has nothing to do with the question. Two of the other answers will normally be very flippant close, where you're not going to be sure which one it actually is. You might be ranting back and forth. Okay, is it this one? Is it that one? So one of the answers you'll have is rollback driver, which we now know is the answer. The other one will normally be something along the lines of system restore. Now, system restore, folks, it does roll back this driver. So if you recently installed a driver, it'll be uninstalled. If you recently uninstalled a driver, it'll be installed. So any recent system changes you made will be rolled back. But system restore changes a lot of stuff back. So it might not just be this driver that's going to be rolled back. You might be changing a whole boatload of other things as well. And it might require the PC to restart now. It's going to possibly take anywhere between 5 minutes and half an hour, if not longer. So that's definitely a lot more administrative effort. It's going to get the job done, yes, but it's going to take longer. It's way more effort, and there might be consequences to it. Where rolling back the driver, literally just clicking on this button, will be very quick, nearly instantaneous, and it's going to only affect this one device. So if you get a question exam that says, how can you go and remove a driver with the least amount of administrative effort? This is what they mean by that, guys. Right, I think I've covered Device Manager enough. Let's move you guys on to another topic here. Disk management. Now, disk management, guys, is not the only tool that can be used to view, well, hard drives and disks and stuff in your computer, but it is the main one we normally use. So on both client operating systems as well as server operating systems, disk management is a tried and tested tool that we use to show us all the hard drives we have in our computer. Usually it will be physical hard drives physically inside your computer, but these days it could be virtual hard drives, it could be a flash drive, it could be a whole bunch of stuff that will actually show you. And if you look at a picture there, guys, you can see in that picture it says disk 0. That whole row that you guys see there is a hard drive. So yes, there's multiple blocks there, but the multiple blocks is just to symbolize how many times this hard drive has been subdivided. We call that partitioning. So when you go and subdivide a hard drive, it could be for various reasons. It could be used because you are trying to organize stuff, but sometimes you'll find a system will also go and partition your hard drive, especially your main hard drive being drive C. Your main hard drive being drive C, you'll find is normally at least partitioned 3 times. You'll have one big partition, which is where your Windows is going to be installed, and you'll have 1 or 2 small partitions, which is only going to consist of a couple of hundred megs, which is system reserved. You won't even see them in Windows. They're system reserved. They're not accessible because they don't want you to go and fiddle there. Now, if you were to go and install another hard drive, it's going to be one big solid block. It's probably going to be a black block, not a blue block like we see in this image. Blue means it's been formatted. It's been initialized. It's got an operating system. It's up and running, and Windows detects it. If you install a new blank hard drive, it's going to be a big black block. Black means Windows does not detect it yet. You need to go and decide whether you want to go and partition it or not. You need to go and initialize/format this hard drive. When you format a hard drive, folks, you're basically giving that hard drive structure. Think of this as a parking lot. A brand spanking new parking lot outside a supermarket. Now, if it's a brand new parking lot without parking lines, can cars go and park there? Yeah, probably. But it's going to be completely chaotic. Cars are going to park each other in. There's going to be no structure. There's going to be a huge waste of space. So what we need to go and do there is paint some parking lines. And when you do that, cars can go and park neatly in the parking spaces, and you're going to be using your space way more efficiently. It's going to give that parking lot structure. So you can think of that parking lot as your hard drive. And you can think of those parking lines as the file system. It's not the only thing the file system does, but that's one of the things it does when you go and format it as FAT32 or NTFS. So formatting the hard drive gives it structure. Once you've done that, the block will turn blue in disk management, which means Windows will now detect it. So in the beginning, if you just go and format it, it's going to be one solid block. It means you're going to have one hard drive pop up in your Windows. You can go and partition it. So if I go and split that hard drive into 2, I can choose how big each of these partitions needs to be, and it's going to appear in Windows as if you've got more than one hard drive, even though in reality, you only have one. In the sense of disk management, guys, if you want to open it via the run command, we did explain this earlier with Device Manager, there's a command you can go and type. So if you'd like to know what the command is, it's diskmgmt.msc Why am I telling you this, you're probably wondering? Because it's a question in the exam. I don't just mention stuff here for show, guys. If I'm mentioning it, it's probably because there's a reason behind it. It's because it's a possible question in the exam. So with Device Manager from earlier, make sure you know what you can go and type into run to get it to pop up. With Disk Management, also know what you need to go and type into run to get it to pop up, because they might ask you this in the exam. They might say, what can user 1 go and type into run to get blah 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 to go and pop up? And you will need to be able to identify the command. The good news here is you can kind of see in the name what it's going to open. So they won't expect you to know it off by heart. They'll just give you 4 commands in the exam, and they're going to say, okay, which one is it? And you can clearly see in the name there it says disk something something something. So you can kind of make a calculated guess in the exam. Even if you didn't know what it was, you can probably guess which one it is in the exam. As for partitioning, guys, I think you know what that is now. That means we are subdividing my hard drive. It doesn't mean you have more space now. You simply subdivided the space you have available. You can think of this as a pizza or a pie that you are slicing into smaller pieces now. Does that mean there is more pizza? No. And at the end of the day, it's still the same amount of pizza. You've simply divided it into smaller sections now. That's all you've done. If you're wondering what disk management actually looks like, I mean, obviously besides this picture, let me show you. I'm going to open disk management just like I opened device manager.
A few moments later.
Right, folks, there we go. That is a real disk management on one of my machines that I've just opened. So you can see at the moment I've got 1 hard drive installed here. It says disk 0. So there's 3 blocks here. So the only one that my Windows is going to detect is this one here that says C. That one there and that one there is system reserved. They're not visible to the operating system. You're not going to see those. So if I want, I can go and add more hard drives. If I add another hard drive, it'll be listed here at the bottom as disk 1. It's going to be one giant solid block, which is going to be black. And I'm going to have to go and right click on it and say initialize. I'm going to have to go through the wizard to go and choose what file system I want, how big I want the hard drive to be, and all that. I can go at any point in time to an existing hard drive like this one, and I can go and chop space off. Yep, that is to go and partition. So you first need to go and check how big is this hard drive. In this case, it's about roughly 2 terabytes. So if I check here at the top, it says capacity, that's how big it is. That's how much free space is on this drive. So that's how much space I can basically go and chop off. You preferably don't want to use all of that, especially if this is your main hard drive. So I'm going to go right click here. You'll see it says shrink volume. If I click on shrink volume, this can take anywhere between 2 seconds to about 5 minutes, 30 minutes to pop up. If it takes more than about a minute or 2 to pop up, I would suggest you do not proceed. It means your hard drive is full, or it's very fragmented, or just in general very slow. And by shrinking it, you're going to cause this hard drive to crash most likely. So do not proceed if it takes more than 2 or 5 minutes. I've seen sometimes it bombs out. Sometimes it does, sometimes it does not. If it takes half an hour or more to pop up, you absolutely do not want to proceed. So here I can go and choose in a form of megabytes how much I want to shrink this hard drive by. Basically go and chop off. If I go click here on shrink, what's going to happen is there's going to be an additional block popping up here. You can see this one's going to be divided into 2 blocks. One will be blue. That's the remaining space that's still in use. The other one will be black. That's unused space that's not going to be detected by Windows anymore until I go and format it or initialize. I'm going to have to right click on that new space, and I'm going to have to go and say initialize and blah blah blah. Any point in time, if you have additional space or that if you partition the hard drive, you can go right click on one of the partitions. You can go and delete it. It's going to turn black back to black. And you can go click on the original hard drive, and then you'll find that the extend option is available to go and put that space back in to the original hard drive. Alright, so that's a bit about disk management, guys. Shows you how many hard drives you've got, how big they are. It allows you to go and partition. It allows you to go and shrink hard drives, extend hard drives, that kinds of stuff. So let's move you guys on to the next topic. I'm going to move you guys on to the topic of disk maintenance tools. This is tools we use to go and take care of our hard drives. Now the tools I'm going to be mentioning for the most part is something called disk defragmentation. And that is something we don't actually use really anymore, or at least not manually. Let me put it that way. It still gets used every day, or at least once a week or once every 2 weeks. But it's something we don't have to do manually anymore. Now, if you guys don't know, your hard drive gets fragmented over time. It means it gets messy. It gets unorganized as time goes by. So when you just installed Windows on this hard drive, whether it be yours or somebody else's, it's very organized. And when you install your first programs and copy your first documents and files onto the hard drive, in the beginning, everything is very well organized. And if you're going to be opening files or programs, you'll find that they open relatively fast because your Windows knows where they are, or at least it finds them very quickly. Especially if you look at the old mechanical hard drives that has to build up revolutions first and then spin and spin and spin until it finds whatever it's looking for. So in the sense of mechanical hard drives, this makes a massive difference. As time goes by, folks, your hard drive gets fragmented. It gets unorganized. It gets messy. As you delete files and create new files and copy new files and move files, uninstall programs and games and install programs and games, it gets messy. You can think of this as having an empty desk in front of you, which is very neat and very organized, maybe on a Monday morning. And as the week progresses, your desk is going to get messier and messier. Your papers are going to be all over the place. So on a Monday morning, if somebody comes to you and asks you for a certain document that might be on your desk, you're probably going to find it in no time at all because your desk is very neat and very organized. By Thursday afternoon, if somebody comes to you and asks for that same file or document, yeah, you'll find it. It's not gone. It's not missing. But it's going to take you a heck of a lot longer to find it because now during the week, your desk has gotten messy, cluttered. So you're going to have to dig around, and eventually you'll find this file. So it makes you slow. And the same happens to your computer. Your hard drive gets unorganized, and when you open files, documents, programs, and games, your PC gets slower and slower. So what we can go and do is, we can go and do something called defragmentation. It's called optimizing your drives. So we call this defragment, we call it optimizing the drives, and what does it do? It improves the read times by reallocating file data locations. So you need some free space on the hard drive for this to actually work. It's going to go and reorganize your hard drive so the files that are similar are, well, close together and all that. So the next time you go and look for a file, or you open a game or a program, your computer is going to find it a lot quicker. It's going to spend less time looking for that file, giving the illusion, well, it's not really an illusion, that it's actually a lot quicker. Now, up until before Windows 10, so in other words, up until Windows 8.1, we had to go and do this manually, folks. So normally when somebody started moaning their machine gets very slow and laggy and non-responsive, one of the things we can go and do was to go and defragment the hard drive, besides running antivirus scans and things like that. Now, because it was almost never done, it took freaking forever to run this. So if this is their personal machine, we would normally start this before they go to bed, and then hopefully the next morning it will be done. If it's a work PC, you'll probably start this as you leave the office, and by the time you get back to the office the next morning, it'll hopefully be done. Now on Windows 10 and 11, this takes place automatically weekly. Happens weekly automatically, so whenever the machine is just idling there doing nothing, it takes that opportunity to go and reorganize your hard drive. So that basically means your PC is permanently optimized. It does this automatically. If you're wondering how or where to find this, let me show you guys.
One eternity later.
Alright guys, here we are on a Windows 11 machine. So if I were to go here to the hard drive and right click on it, you'll see there's an option that says Properties. We're going to go there. Tools. You're going to click on Tools there. And there is the tool we're looking for. So there's another one you can go and use for hard drives that checks for damaged clusters and sectors and stuff. So here you're going to go click on that. Not that we need to do this anymore, but that's where you would find it. You go click there. It's going to show you the hard drive you've got. You can see when it was last analyzed. So mine was analyzed a couple of days ago. So it's normally going to run at least once a week. You can see it says scheduled optimization. It's on by default. By default, it does it weekly. So I don't know why you'd want to go and turn this off or change the frequency. So normally I would advise you to leave this on, but I suppose you can go and turn this off if you've got a good reason. But generally, guys, that's how you find it. That's how it works. Hopefully this makes more sense. Since we are in here, this is not the actual topic right now, but there's something called error checking. It's also known as check disk. It's going to check your hard drive for damaged clusters or sectors. So if you find yourself opening a file today, which you opened yesterday, this file or program was working fine yesterday. Today, if you open that file or program, it crashes. It says it's corrupt or it just crashes. It could be an indication that the file has gotten corrupt, the program has gotten corrupt, or something on the hard drive has gotten corrupt. This might be a damaged cluster or sector. So by running check disk, whether you do it via the GUI, which is what we see this button here, whether you do it that way or whether you do it in command prompt, something I will show you guys in the end of this video, whichever way you do, it's going to go and check first if it can repair that damaged cluster or sector which your data is on. If it's unable to, but normally it's about 90% effective, if it's unable to, it will then attempt to move that data, which is on that damaged cluster or sector, to a working cluster or sector, so that you can at least still access that program and that file and that data and whatever it might be. Now that's also about 90% effective from what I've seen. If that is not able to work, then, well, your data is gone. You can kiss it goodbye. Right, folks, so the last thing I want to mention here of disk maintenance before we move on to the next topic is hard drives versus solid-state hard drives. Yeah, it sounds confusing, doesn't it? So when we say HDD, in the old days, we literally just meant the hard drive because there was only one kind of hard drive, and that was the mechanical kind of hard drive. And then obviously about a decade ago, if not more, they brought out something called solid-state hard drives. Now, a solid-state hard drive, we know what that is. It's a solid-state hard drive, it's got no moving parts and all that. Now, what do we call the old hard drives then? Since the new ones are called solid-state, what do we call the old ones? So that's where the naming becomes a bit of a problem, which is why we just call them HDD. I just call them mechanical hard drives, and at least people know which ones I'm referring to. So if I'm talking about the old hard drives that's got movable parts, I call it a mechanical hard drive, because it is a mechanical hard drive that's got movable parts. If I talk about the newer ones that look like laptop hard drives, I call them solid-state hard drives. Now, solid-state hard drives, guys, generally are way faster than mechanical hard drive. That's one of the benefits. How fast depends on which one you get. They come in different speeds and all that. Some of them read fast, some of them write fast, some of them read and write fast. So the faster they read and write, the more you can expect to pay for it. And also the more capacity they got, the more you can expect to pay for it. So the bigger it is and the faster it is, the more you pay for it. The old mechanical hard drives, it doesn't mean they're all bad. Yes, they might be slower on average. Usually they are way slower than a solid-state hard drive, but they're way more reliable. So yes, you can drop them. Yes, you shouldn't bring them near a magnet and all that. But in a sense of the long run, if you're going to go put them into a system, they last way longer than solid-state hard drives. Solid-state hard drives, guys, there's only a certain amount of times you can go and read and write to them before they actually fail. So if you look at something like a CCTV system, you probably benefit from putting in a mechanical hard drive because you don't need speed in a CCTV system, you need reliability. Something that's able to read and write a lot. And mechanical hard drives do that way better than solid-state hard drives. So if you want speed, maybe for gaming purposes, solid-state's the way to go. If you want reliability, the old mechanical ones is the way to go. Now, those are the only two hard drives that we cover right now, but you do get other hard drives, guys. Nowadays, you get those hard drives that you, for example, put in the M.2 slots, just to name one. So there's many kinds, and those ones are way faster than the old solid-state hard drives that we get. Right, let me move you guys along to the next topic, Task Scheduler. Like the name suggests, it is used to schedule tasks. I kid you not. Now, there's a lot of things you guys can go and schedule. This is a tool that's available both on the client and the server side. So far, they're all available on the client and the server side. Everything I've showed you up until now. Now, do we use this in the client side? Yes, but generally from my experience, not as often on the client side as on the server side. On the client operating systems, normally you or the user would be in front of the screen, and if something needs to be done, you or the user can go and do it manually. On a server, however, they're very often unmanned and automated. There might be nobody on it at that moment. So when something needs to happen on a server, there might not be somebody there to go and click on that something or to go and start that something. So you might need something like Task Scheduler to go and start something for you sometimes. Would it be something as simple as a backup sometimes? You never know. Now, yes, you get all kinds of fancy backupping software normally, so it's normally not going to be needed to go and run Task Scheduler. But I've had a couple of weird clients out there, guys. Clients that wanted me to go and do backups for them. Daily, weekly, and monthly backups. But they said you're not allowed to go and install any backupping software to do this. I was like, okay. What do you expect me to do then? Do you expect me to go and copy paste? I mean, that'll get the job done, but it's going to take near forever. You know, it's just not going to work. It's just not feasible. I've got other clients I need to go and see, and I've got other things I need to go and do. It's just not feasible. So what I ended up doing was, I did end up copy pasting it in those situations sometimes, but it was a glorified copy paste command I was running. So I would type in the copy paste command, the command you would normally type into command prompt. I would type that into Notepad and save it as a batch file. And I would run that on a schedule. So once a day it's going to run, maybe at 4 o'clock after work. Once a week on a Friday at 5 o'clock, it might run after work as well. That'll be the weekly one. And once a month on a Friday, maybe at, let's say, 6 o'clock, it'll run again. That will be my monthly backup. So that could be seen as a daily, weekly, and monthly backup. It's a glorified copy-paste command, is basically what it is. And in real life, if you're going to go and copy paste, it's bound to run into issues. It's going to say the file name is too long for the destination, this file already exists, or. So when that happens, I added parameters to basically take care of that. So if the file name is too long, it makes it shorter. If the file already exists in the destination, overwrite it, unless it's the exact same version. Things like that. So Task Scheduler, guys, is an automated system which allows you to go and schedule activities or scripts and things like that. So you can see there's a picture there, obviously, that shows you more or less what this looks like. But looking at the picture might seem a bit overwhelming. It might look like rocket science, when in reality it's actually very straightforward and easy. So I think to help this make more sense, let me show you guys on a Windows 10 virtual machine what this actually looks like.
A few moments later.
Alright guys, here we are on Windows 10 virtual machine. It doesn't matter whether I show you guys this on Windows 10 or 11 because it looks exactly the same on both of them. So I'm going to go here to search. I'm going to type in task. You can see it's already going to start popping up. Task Scheduler, there it is. Here we go. Let's make this nice and big. Here we go. Looks very intimidating, doesn't it? But it's actually very straightforward. So I'm going to go here where it says create a task. There we go. And there you can give this task a name. Now the funny thing about this tool is it looks like it was designed to create viruses. It's absolutely not what it was designed to go and do, but it kind of looks like that sometimes. Viruses have triggers of some kind. You can see there's triggers. A trigger will be you opening a file, changing a file, launching a file, clicking on something, or it could be a date file, you know. All of those triggers are in there, mind you. You'll see that now. So to give you an idea where I use this task scheduler, just to put it into more perspective. On a client computer, I once used this to shut down PCs automatically after work. So I was working for this company that had many machines, and most of the staff would leave the machines on after work. Maybe not all, but most. So we tried asking them to please turn off their machines after work, and yeah, some people will comply, but you're going to get those folks that just don't care. You're going to get those folks that got distracted and preoccupied, and they honestly forgot, and you get those, there's many kinds. So management asked me, hey, is there a way we can turn these machines off automatically at 4 o'clock, or let's say 4:30? People finished at 4 o'clock, so we made them turn themselves off at 4:30 because we left about a half an hour buffer just in case somebody was working late. So I wrote a script, a glorified shutdown script. I'll show you guys at the end of this video because it happens to be part of the command prompt commands. So I typed in the shutdown command into Notepad. You know, the command that will shut down the PC. Typed into Notepad. It's something you'd normally type into command prompt. Typed it into Notepad, saved it as a batch file, and I hooked it up to Task Scheduler and had it execute every day at 4:30 on every PC. So that is something I would do on a client machine. It could be seen as malicious if you ran that in working hours, but considering I ran this after hours to turn off the machines to save power, I suppose one could see this as a piece of green code then. So on a desktop PC, I would have called this maybe shut down the PC. Give it a nice description so that other people will know why we did this. So imagine you're stumbling across this 6 months later. You're not going to remember what you did or why you did it. And what if somebody else stumbles across this? Another technician. Put yourself in the shoes of the other technician. What would you have liked to have seen that will help you identify what this was or why you did it? So I'm going to say shut down the PC after work to save power. Here we go. So if somebody stumbled across this now, they would know what this was for and why it was made. Here you can go and choose whether the user needs to be logged on or not. Now considering this PC is probably going to just be idling there, I would click on the one that says run whether they're logged on or not. You can go here to triggers, new, give it a moment. And in this drop down list, you'll see there's a whole boatload of options to go and choose from. Now obviously schedule is one of the most popular options. I can go and schedule something to take place only once. You can see one time. And I can choose the exact year, month, day it'll take place. The exact hour, minute to the second. So I can schedule something years in advance. And I can be so precise as to the second when this something will launch. This could even be a virus, for crying out loud. This could be something that happens daily. So it's going to, on a schedule, execute this daily. If so, when will be the first time? And if so, will it be every day, every second day, every third day? So you've got full-on flexibility here, guys. I can schedule this to happen weekly, like a weekly backup. When it will be the first time this is going to kick in? Will it be every week, every second, or every third week? And on which days of each week will this happen? You've got the same flexibility of months here. So considering I want to shut down the PC every day at 4:30, I'm going to run this daily. I'm going to say every day, so I'm going to leave it on 1. I'm going to leave it on today's date, which is the 16th of July, 2025. So you can see that's today's date here. By the time you guys watch this, it might be way later. And I can say, you know what, let's make this 16:30, because this company finishes work at 4 o'clock. And every day at 16:30, this, whatever it's supposed to happen, will happen at 6:30. There's other triggers here too, guys. You can see, as soon as this PC logs on, or the user logs on, whatever this is that's supposed to happen will happen. Or as soon as the machine starts up, as soon as the machine goes on idle, as soon as there's an event that happens. You can see these look like real triggers that one would use for a virus, quite frankly. So that's why I said it looks like this thing was designed for viruses. Probably not what they had in mind, but if you know what you're doing, you can achieve that. I'm going to go here and click here on OK. Under Actions, here's where you specify what needs to happen. It doesn't look like much, but it is a lot. I can go here to New, and you'll see in this drop-down list, it says those are depreciated. Well, I can't even pronounce that. Starting a program is normally what we'll go and choose. It doesn't seem like much, guys, but it's a lot. Starting a program allows you to start a program that's built into Windows. This could be something like Paint, Command Prompt, whatever. Or this could be a program or a game that you've installed afterwards. You can browse to your programs and files or whatever and start any program or game that you've installed afterwards. And where it gets really funky is the fact that I can go and start scripts. I can go and start something like a batch script, which is a command prompt command. Now, for those of you that don't know, you can do pretty much anything in command prompt that can be done via the graphical interface. Now, if you just know the commands, you can get it done. So all I need to do here, guys, is just type the right command into Notepad, save that as a script, and I can hook it up to this thing here, and I can literally do anything on my machine. So the sky is the limit, quite frankly. I just browse to where the script is saved, and voila. Now, I don't have the script right now, so it's pointless for me to browse, but I'll show you guys a little bit later in the end of the video how to go and do that. So that is that. The rest of the tabs I'm not too concerned about. Something I want to point out before I close this. If you eventually click on OK here, guys, it's going to ask you for an administrator username and password. Now, if you happen to be the admin, and let's say this machine does not have a password, you might think, okay, well, let's just leave the password blank. It's not going to accept that. It's going to tell you your password is wrong, even though it's technically correct. It forces you to have a password. So if you don't have a password, maybe your password is currently blank, you will need to go and set one, set some sort of password, and then come back here and then type that password in along with your username. Why does it do that, you ask? It's to prevent malicious malware from scheduling things on your behalf. If your password was blank, any willy-nilly in their uncle or some sort of malware can come onto your PC and schedule things on your behalf and just be malicious in nature. Now, other people and other malwares can schedule things on your behalf because they or it needs your password. So just something I wanted to point out to you guys. Alright, so I'm going to cancel this, cancel, and I'm going to close this and go back to the presentation. Alright, so back on the presentation we are. So I gave you guys an example from the client's perspective, why one might want to run this on a client computer. There's many examples I can give you, but then we'll be here all day. Most commonly, this tool is however used on a server. It could be used for something like backups, as an example. Right, folks, I'm going to move you on to one more console, and then it will be the end of the first main section. So this console is called the Microsoft Management Console. There's a picture of what it looks like. We call this MMC for short. So if you go to your search, you type in mmc.exe, it's going to pop up. So this console is blank. So this console in the beginning is going to be blank. It allows you or the user to go and add what they call snap-ins. These are for the most part going to be various admin tools. Now these admin tools, you can go and open them directly, like we showed you some of them earlier, or you can go and add them as a snap-in should they be available in the list. Now I can tell you guys from experience, not all the admin tools and consoles are available in their list. They've got a lot, yes, but a lot of them are also missing. So it's just a way to conveniently add the tools you need into one convenient location. So I think for this to make more sense, like usual, I'm going to show you guys. It just makes more sense if I actually show you guys. So let me open MMC on that Windows 10 virtual machine again.
A few moments later.
Alright, here we are back on that Windows 10 virtual machine, folks. So I'm going to go here to search at the bottom. MMC. You can see it's already popping up. I didn't even have to type EXE. I'm going to click on that. Yes. And there we go. It's blank in the beginning. There's nothing. So what you'll need to do here, folks, is you need to go and add what they call snap-ins. So the way you do that is to go here to File, add and remove snap-in. And you'll see there is a decent list of various admin tools and consoles and stuff. It's not all of them. I want to be clear about that. It's not all of them. It looks like a lot, but it's absolutely not all of them. There's a whole boatload of them that's not even listed here. You'll see there's the task scheduler we did earlier. So let's go and add that. What else did we cover so far? We've seen disk management today in this video. There's device management or manager. And no, that's the only ones we've covered so far that I see here. That is something we're going to cover in this video. That's going to be in the second main section. I don't see resource monitor here, and that is something that we covered. So there's a whole boatload. Anyway, so if I click on OK, you'll see there's the tools now, conveniently together. If I double click on, let's say, device manager, it opens it here as if I'm in it. It looks nearly the same. You've got pretty much the same functionality. But to show you the difference, let me keep that here. I'm going to right click on start and open device manager on this virtual machine as well. You'll see it looks similar. Not exactly the same. So here on this one in the back, you've got this list on the side now that shows you your other consoles and blah, blah, blah. But other than that, it's very much the same deal. If I go to disk management here, very much the same as what we saw earlier. So that's what this one on the virtual machine looks like. If I were to right click here on start and go into disk management, you'll see it looks very much the same, doesn't it? With the exception of this little thingy here on the side, this little side menu. So it's just a way for you to go and access your tools conveniently all in one little location. That's all it is, guys. Right, so that is the Microsoft Management Console. Here we are, back on the Management Console slide. Right, folks, we have now reached the end of the first main section. Finally, let's move you guys on to the second main section in today's module, performance and troubleshooting tools. Some of them we did actually see in that screenshot earlier. So the tools will be things like resource monitor, performance monitor, event viewer, just to name a few. So with that, let's go have a look at our first tool. Alright, the first tool I've got for you guys is something called system information. It doesn't actually do anything per se. Instead, this tool is used to show you information about your machine or your client or your user's machine. Now, if you are, for example, talking to a user, a customer, a client over the phone, and you need to know more about that machine, maybe you need to know what brand it is, maybe you need to know what model it is. So whether you're doing it over the phone or whether you are in person, something you can go and do is open this thing called system information. So usually how we open that is to go to our search or run. You can go type in msinfo or msinfo32. By typing that in, it's going to allow you to open this window we see in front of us, which is the system information about that machine. So I'm going to show you very briefly on a virtual machine what this looks like. So besides the screenshot in front of us, let's quickly switch over to a virtual machine.
A few moments later.
Here we are on that Windows 10 machine again. I'm going to go here to search msinfo. You can see it's already popping up. Sometimes you might need to have to type in msinfo32 to get it pop up. So there we go. I'm going to click on that. And you can see it's showing me that same information we saw earlier, except this is now for a virtual machine. So some of the information might be a little weird. So there we go. I can see the system name, manufacturer. You can see it just says Microsoft. In real life, in a real machine, this would obviously be a lot more helpful because it's going to show you the brand. It might tell you this is an Asus, or it might tell you it's a Dell, or what. And you can see the exact model and all that. So when it comes to downloading drivers, it's going to be a breeze because you'll know exactly what brand and model to go and download this for. So let me close this up. Right, so you guys should have a better idea now of what system information is. That's a very quick and easy one. Doesn't do anything besides show you very valuable information. And you guys can probably see here in the screenshot, there's a lot of tabs there on the left-hand side. A lot of tabs with sub-tabs with lots and lots of useful information. It all depends on what exactly you want to see. Alright, I'm going to move you guys on to another tool. It is something called Event Viewer. And it does exactly what the name says. It allows you to view events, amongst many other things. This is a tool which is basically a log-keeping tool. Anything that happens on your computer or your server is logged. You probably know that by now. There's not a thing these days on Microsoft that does not get logged. Whether it be on your own computer, whether it be on a server, whether it be in the cloud. Guys, anything and everything you do is logged. I kid you not. So if you look at that screenshot, you'll see it on the left-hand side. It says Windows logs. So there's a whole bunch of different kinds of Windows logs you get. You get other kinds of logs as well. So if you look at something like the security logs there, it'll show you when someone logged onto this machine, when they logged out. It'll show you whether they got the password wrong, and if so, how many times they got it wrong before they got it right. If they got it right, that is. And if you look at other categories there, as an example, the one that says system, which is currently the one that's highlighted there, it will show you things like errors, amongst many other things. So if you experienced an error on your machine, let's say it was just a normal system error, or it's a program that crashed, you can go there to system and you can go and view that error. So if you keep getting an error or a program keeps crashing and you're not sure why, you can go in there and you can go and check why it keeps crashing. Sometimes if you click on an error, it'll tell you exactly what it is. Other times you'll find it gives you a code of sorts. And you might have to go and take that into Google, type it into Google, and then it'll tell you what exactly it is. If you, for example, get a blue screen of death, also known as a stop error, also known as a memory dump. If you get those, they normally flash on the screen so darn gosh quickly that you cannot take a screenshot, you cannot take a photo, you cannot read it. Yeah, it's just impossible. So how do you fix something if you can't even read it? So with that, if you're able to actually open Event Viewer afterwards, you can go in there and you can go and check what that error was. But now I can already tell you 9 out of 10 times there's going to be some sort of memory related error, which is why we call it a memory dump. Somewhere along the line, some of your memory got an issue. It could be your RAM, could be your page file memory, could be your hard drive, it could be your graphics card's memory, but it's usually a memory related issue, guys. If you're wondering what it looks like once we open this, let me quickly show you guys on the virtual machine again.
A few moments later.
There we are. Gonna run a search for it. Events. Here we go. This is great on servers as well, by the way. Go there. Go to our Windows logs. And you can see there are the logs we saw in the screenshot. So if I go here to application, all kinds of various application information, very useful. Security. Might show you when somebody logged in. You know, all kinds of cool security related stuff. If I go here to setup, you've got that. System will show you errors if there was any. Oh, there is an error. So you can go and check what it was. If that doesn't make sense, you can go and look it up. So it's very useful in the sense of troubleshooting or just checking where you went wrong, guys. Right, so let's go back to the presentation. Next up, folks, it is the good old-fashioned Task Manager. I kid you not, it's a tool you need to know for the A+ exam. And before you laugh, remember there's a lot of people out there that might not be familiar with this tool, or they might not be familiar with all the functions and features of this tool. Heck, you might not even know all the functions and features. Now, unfortunately, it does not look exactly the same on Windows 10 and Windows 11, but you can ultimately achieve the same goal. So I'll try and show you on both. I'll try being the key word here. So I think let's switch over to a virtual machine on Windows 10 first, because it's probably going to work better than just looking at this image, right? So let's switch over to that virtual machine.
One eternity later.
There we are. Now, in terms of opening Task Manager, guys, you can either go and right click on the taskbar. You'll see there it says Task Manager. You can go and press the Control, Alt, and Delete key at the same time. I think most of us know that. Or, this is where it gets interesting, you can go and press Control, Shift, and the Escape key. Yep, try it. See what happens. Control, Shift, and Escape will also open Task Manager. Make sure you remember that, folks, because that's a question exam. So in the exam, one of the questions I've seen, it doesn't mean you'll get it, but it's in the pool, they'll ask you, how can a user open Task Manager? Where or how? And you might think they might give options like right-clicking on the taskbar or Control-Alt-Delete, but you'll be surprised to see that that's not the answers in the exam. Usually the answer in the exam is something like Control, Shift, and Escape. Try it, you'll see it does work. It's not an incorrect answer. Try it now. So what I would suggest you guys do to help yourself remember this answer in the exam is from this point forward, until you write the exam, force yourself to use those keys to open Task Manager every time you need to open Task Manager. Make a habit of it, so that by the time you write this exam, it's become muscle memory and you're not going to forget it. Anyway, so if I open Task Manager on Windows 10, let's make this nice and big. Here we go. So there is a tab, it shows us processes, and you can see they have different shades of orange here, if we want to call it that. The darker something is, the more resources it uses. Windows 11 has got the same concept, except on Windows 11 it's not orange, it's shades of blue. So the darker the blue shade is, the more resource intensive something is on Windows 11. On Windows 10 it's shades of orange. Now if something uses enough memory, it'll actually turn red at some point. It'll turn to a dark orange turn red. You can see here it shows the 4 main counters, CPU, memory, disk, and network respectively. And if I go here to the performance tab, they show us the same 4 main counters. So if you see something funky going on the machine, if it's misbehaving, you can come in here. Even the users can come in here. Now, whether you or the user see something suspicious here, this is normally where you will go and use something more advanced to go and look further. So one of the tools we go and use to look at these 4 main counters more in depth is something called Resource Monitor. Now, Microsoft knows that's one of the tools we're going to go and use, which is why they added a nice little convenient little link here, a shortcut, if you will, to the Resource Monitor. It's not the only way to open it, it's just one of the many ways. Now, something I noticed is on Windows 11, that link seems to be missing. So maybe I just mislooked. I did look very quickly the other day, so maybe it is there. Maybe I just missed it. But on Windows 11, I don't see that link. So someone at Microsoft probably thought it would be funny to go and remove that button now. So if you want to see the same resources in great more detail, that's the tool to go and use. It's going to come up in just a bit in the video, so I'm going to leave that for now. App history shows the apps that obviously ran recently. I mean, it does exactly what that tab says. Startup tab shows you everything that starts up with this machine. Now, mine's for the most part blank because this is a virtual machine after all. So that used to be in a console called msconfig. Something we are going to show in this video, mind you. That's the console after all. So in the msconfig console, which has looked the exact same since Windows XP up until all the way to Windows 11, there's a tab there that says Startup. It's still there. But from Windows 8 onwards, that tab is now blank. There's just a little note there that says, please note this is moved. And if you click on the little link that they've dropped there, it takes you to Task Manager onto this tab. So you can still do it, but you just need to go and do it via Task Manager on this tab. So it shows you what starts up with the machine. If you see something starting up with the machine, it does not need to start up with the machine, you can disable it here. This is how you make your machine faster. The Users tab shows you, for the most part, all the users that's currently logged into this machine. So for the most part, it's a useless tab. But there's been a couple of cases in my life where this actually proved to be a very useful tab. So if you look at an environment where, let's say, lots of users need to log into a server, let's say with their Active Directory accounts, if you as the admin were to go click on this tab on that server, you will see all the users logged into that server at that point in time. In that case, it's quite cool because you can see exactly how much resources everybody's using. So if your resources for something is very high, like your RAM, you can go and see exactly who the culprit is that's using all that resources. Pretty funky, right? And if somebody is using a lot of resources, you can even go and expand the name to see what it is they're doing that's using up so much resources. The Details tab, very much the same as the Processes tab. So you can go and see various services running in the background. You can start them, stop them, that kind of stuff. The Services tab, I'm not a fan of this tab. So it shows you services running on your machine. So if you just want to see what's running and what's stopped, it's fine. You can probably go and use it. But if you really want to go and change settings regarding your services, I suggest you go and open the actual console that is Services. It's going to give you way more joy. So if I were to go here to Services, just to give you an idea. There we go. This is going to give you way more joy. You're going to see everything and you're going to have way more options available. So if I go right click here on something, you can see I've got way more options available compared to what we see there in the background. Right, so that is Task Manager, folks. Let's go back. Right, next up, folks, Resource Monitor. So I could have actually just kept that Task Manager open, couldn't I? So there's a picture, more or less, of what Resource Monitor looks like once you open it. You can see in that picture they've got the same 4 main counters: CPU, memory, disk, and network respectively. So if you see something funky, something suspicious on the Performance tab in Task Manager and you want to go and investigate it further, this is how you go and do it. And if you find the service that's the culprit here, you might be tempted to go and kill it, to go and end that process. But don't just go and end it, guys. Do your research. If you know what it is and you know it's not going to harm your PC, sure, go and end it. But if you're not sure what it is, I would suggest you go and do some research first. It could be a system process for all we know. Maybe it's indexing, maybe it's doing a scan. You never know. So do your research first. So I think this is pretty much all I need to show you guys. But in case you want to see Resource Monitor firsthand, let's quickly go back to the virtual machine.
A few moments later.
Okay, here we are. How you open it, guys, is up to you. You can go and do it via Task Manager like we just saw. Or I can literally just go and run a search for it. Let's see, Resource. Oh, there it is. Resource Monitor. Open it like so. And you can see it's got those 4 main counters we literally just saw there. So if I see something suspicious here, let's say I see that is suspicious, I could go and end it. But if you don't know what that is, it's advised that you go and search online or go and Google it. Go and run a search for that. Check what it is. Do your research before you end up doing more harm than good here, guys. Alright, let's go back to our presentation. Next up, folks, performance monitor. It does exactly what the name says. It monitors your performance. There's a screenshot for you guys. That's more or less what it would look like once it's up and running. Now, guys, this is a free tool. Everything I've shown you guys up until now, you know, in the previous section and this section, all of it's built into both the client side as well as the server side. It's all stuff that comes with the operating system. So you don't have to go and pay extra for that. It comes with the operating system. Now, this performance monitor is no difference. It's for free. It comes with the operating system. Now, if you are tasked with just monitoring it, it's okay. It's meh. I want to use the word meh. But if you happen to be the person tasked with having to go and set it up, yeah, it sucks. It's extremely, extremely unuser-friendly when it comes to having to set it up. So before I get to why it's unuser-friendly, what it does, guys, is it's got this graph. You can see there's a graph in the image there. And it uses what we call counters. So at the bottom there, you can see they've got two counters. One is called processor time. The other one is available megabytes. You can go and add a counter for just about anything on your machine. There's literally almost anything you can go and monitor on the machine. So each counter you add will normally by default be shown of a different color. A random color. You can change these colors at any point in time if you want to. All the counters you add will by default be shown at the same time on the same graph, simply just using different colors. At any point in time, like I said, you can change the color for any counter. At any point in time, you can also go and untick a counter, which means it just won't show that moment on that graph. So that's all good and well. Very easy, very straightforward in the sense of actually just using it. But adding the freaking counters is a nightmare. So if you guys see that image, you'll see there's a little green plus sign there in the image. That's where you go and click to add counters. Up until that point, it's pretty straightforward. But after that, goes downhill. Let me show you guys on that virtual machine what I'm talking about. Alright, here we are, boys and girls. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go and type in performance monitor. Here we go. It pops up. Voila. Looks a bit intimidating, but all you need to do is just click here on the left where it says performance monitor. Voila. And at the moment, as we can see, it is, well, blank because there's no real counters being monitored. So I've got one here. It's ticked. It's going to show here on the graph, and that's that. So I can go and add as many as I want to. So it's my choice. So to add them, this is where it gets tricky, is to click on the green plus sign. That's still simple enough. And here is where the problems start, guys. This list, let me go through it very slowly. It's a very, 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 very long list, is it not? Now, unfortunately, guys, that is not the counters. Would you believe if I told you that's basically just the categories of counters you get? Yep, that's right. It's not the actual counters. You will have to, look at that. That's drop down list, guys. You have to go and drop down that little category, that little drop down menu, and then in there, you go and choose your counter. And there's normally a lot to go and choose from. So let's say I'm looking for RAM. Now, if I want to monitor something about my RAM, perhaps just how much RAM I've got available, I don't know now what I'm looking for because of how long this list is. If the list only had 5 or 6 items, I could make a calculated guess as to which one it might be because of the names I could see in front of me. But now, considering how long this list is, I don't actually know what I'm looking for. Am I looking for RAM? Am I looking for random access memory, its full actual name? Am I looking for the word memory? What the cheese am I looking for? I don't know. Now, coincidentally, I do know that RAM is listed as memory, so I'm just going to go down to M for memory. Let's see if we can find M. There we go. If I expand this, guys, check this out. There is the counters. Man, look at that. It's insane. So now I've got to squint my eyes here, scratch my head, and try and figure out which one it is I think I'm looking for. It can be an excruciating process, guys. So if you are tasked with setting this up, like I said, very difficult. So hopefully you're the person just tasked with having to go and use it. But if you have to go and set it up, it can be a nightmare, guys. So if you want to go and add something, you just go and click on a block. I'm just going to click on a random one. Okay. And normally it's going to add it here at the bottom. And you're going to start seeing that counter there with a different color. Any point in time, I can obviously go and change this. I can go and change the colors and whatever. So that is the performance monitor, folks. Hopefully it makes a little bit more sense. Alright, I'm going to move you guys on to one more management console, or tool should I say, before we move on to the third and the last main section. That would be the system configuration utility. Wowza! Sounds very fancy and very complicated. This is literally just a good old-fashioned MS config tool, guys. There's a picture for you guys. So like I said earlier when I mentioned this, in case you guys didn't pay attention, I did mention it earlier. If you were to go onto XP and Vista and Windows 7 and Windows 8 and 8.1 and Windows 10 and 11, all of them, it looks exactly the same. The only difference is from Windows 8 onwards, that startup tab, you guys see it in the screenshot, that startup tab is now actually blank. There's nothing on it. So anyway, let me show you guys on a virtual machine what this actually looks like. So if you want to access this, you go to your search, msconfig. Here we go. You can see there it says system configuration. And yeah, guys, there you can go and choose whether you want to start this PC up normally in diagnostic mode. If you go to the boot tab, it shows you all the operating systems that's installed on this machine. If you have more than one installed, they will all be listed here. The one that you installed most recently will by default be the default one that's going to start up with. So normally if you install more than one, if you start your PC up for about 30 seconds, it's going to show you, you can see here it says 30 seconds, it's going to show you a list of operating systems to choose from. If you do not choose one, it'll automatically boot into the default one, which in this case is Windows 10. It's the only one. If you want to go and change the operating system, it needs to be the default one. You just go and click on the default one that you want to have as the default, and you click here where it says set as default. Now you're probably wondering, okay, so on which operating system do I need to boot into to do this? It doesn't matter. They're all linked, guys. You could literally boot into any one of those operating systems, come here into system configuration, click on the boot tab, and just choose these settings. It does not matter on which one of the operating systems you choose it on. They will talk to one another. It's going to carry that setting across. Pretty cool, right? Now, if you want, you can go and reduce this counter, which is something I would normally suggest you do. The minimum you can make is normally 3 seconds. So instead of showing that window of all the different kinds of operating systems, should you have more than one, for a whole 30 seconds, you can reduce that to 3 seconds. It's going to make your PC boot a heck of a lot faster if you don't choose an operating system. Other things you guys can go and choose here is services. I don't suggest this. This is the same as the task manager, where it's got a services tab. It shows you what's started and what's running and whatnot, but it's very limited in functionality. So I don't suggest you use that tab unless you absolutely need to. You're better off just going and typing in services and opening the services console. There's the startup tab. So up until Windows 7, that used to be where we would see stuff starting up of our PC. Now it's obviously blank. If I click on that little link, opens Task Manager, and it's on the right tab. And then Tools is just another place you can go and access various consoles and admin tools. It's once again, not all of them. It's just some random ones out of them. So that, guys, is in a nutshell the system configuration tool. Alright, folks, that brings us to the end of the second main section in this video. And this is where I'm going to play a bit of a game with you guys now. So before we move into the third and the last main section, you guys probably know what game this is. It's completely optional. You do not need to participate. So normally I'll give you a random word or a random phrase. The idea is for you guys to go and use that word or phrase and comment in the comment section down below using that word or phrase. Create a new sentence. I basically just want to see who can be the most creative. And it's more of an inside joke. It's just for giggles. You don't have to participate. So anybody that's just skimming through the video that didn't actually watch the whole video, if they're going to read the comment section, they're going to be very confused as to what the cheese is going on, why you guys keep talking about that topic. They might feel it's very important. Meanwhile, it's just because they didn't watch the whole video. It's a bit of a game we're playing with them. So, yeah, guys, if you want to play along, today's hidden word or phrase is Task Manager. So let's see how creative you guys can be using the words or the phrase Task Manager. So just remember to stick to YouTube's rules, guys. No swearing. Don't go and disobey any of YouTube's rules. Otherwise, the YouTube popo is going to be on our case here. You are still allowed to go and ask your normal questions down below as well, and I will get back to you guys. Right, moving you guys into the third and last main section, command line tools. So I'm going to take you guys straight into the section called general command line commands. So there's many commands you guys can go and type into the command prompt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys, or tell you guys, or explain to you guys the most basic ones. The ones you need to know for just general work purposes outside of this course and the exam. But they will also ask you about this in the exam, mind you. So the first one I want to mention, guys, is something called ipconfig. If you go into command prompt, and just FYI, I'll show you guys most of these. I'll try and show you guys most of these on that virtual machine in a bit. If you go to command prompt and you type in ipconfig, it shows you that machine's basic network configuration. Its IP address, its subnet mask, maybe its default gateway, and that's it. Basic network information about that machine. If you were to go and type in ipconfig /all, it'll show you the same information as the previous command, except now it's going to show you way more. It's going to show you the physical address, which is the MAC address. It's going to show you a whole boatload of other things, like whether this machine is using a static IP, a dynamic IP, does it have a dynamic IP, all kinds of things like that. Then, folks, you get a command called ipconfig/release. This command only works on machines that have a dynamic IP address. So should you or the user have a dynamic IP address that has expired, if you know what an expired IP address is, instead of restarting the machine to release that old IP and then getting a new one, you could literally go and run the command called release. It releases the IP address that's now expired, which means you don't have an IP address. It means you've got a pipa. So after you've run this command, if you go check what your IP address is, you'll see it's going to be 169.254.something.something. It means you don't have an IP. Think of that as a placeholder. Now, right after running this command, you need to run this command, ipconfig/renew. That is to ask for a new IP address. Now, both the release and renew only works if you are on a dynamic option. If you've got a static IP, it's not going to work, guys. Release also only actually works if you actually have an IP to go and release. If you already have a 169.254, which technically is not an IP, it means you don't have an IP address. So you can actually skip ahead to the renew command then. Then we've got the command called ipconfig/DNS. So this is to go and erase your DNS cache. So if your PC has recently visited websites, but you know the DNS cache is now remembering the wrong address, you can go and do that. You can go and run this command to erase the DNS cache. Also, if machines change the name on a network and now your machine can't find them, this can also be run then to go and just correct that. To erase the DNS cache, to force your PC to go and check with the DNS what the new name of a machine might be. Another command we get, which is a very well-known, very famous troubleshooting command, is the ping command. So by typing this into command prompt, followed by space, followed by the IP address or name of a machine, a server, a website, or whatever, it's going to send 4 packets of data to that destination or that machine, very small packets of data. And if your configuration is correct and everything is up and running and all that, the 4 packets will be delivered and they will be returned. You're going to see 4 replies. So ideally we want to see 4 replies, but not just 4 replies. We want to see them come back very swiftly, very quickly. So you're going to go and check how long they take to reply. If you don't get any replies, it means something is wrong. Your configuration is wrong, cable is unplugged, you're disconnected. It can be any amount of things. If you do get replies, but let's say it's just out of 3 out of 4, it could be an indication that something is wrong. Maybe you've got EMI on a network, electromagnetic interference. You never know. Now, another command you guys get is tracert. This is supposedly used to trace people. Yeah, not really. It's more used to trace where a problem might be on a network. Whether the problem is in your network or outside of your network. So if your connection is on and off or things like that, you can use this command to see where the problem might be. So you're going to go to command prompt, type that command, followed by something, let's say like google.com, and it's going to trace that connection. So it'll trace it up to a maximum of 50 hops. Each hop is usually a router, but it's not limited to routers. It can also be firewalls and stuff. So it'll show you where the connection is dropping or where the problem might be. If it's the first hop or 2, it'll show you, okay, that means it's in your network or your ISP. If it's beyond that, then you know, okay, you know what, it's beyond my ISP that the problem might be. We'll show you guys that in a moment as well. The last one I've got for you guys on this particular page is something called Who Am I? Yeah, it looks like one word, but it's actually Who Am I to show you your own machine's name. So before we continue to the next slide, guys, let me quickly go over to that virtual machine of mine and try and run some of these commands. So let's switch over to that virtual machine. I'm going to go ahead and open command prompt for you guys. Here we go. Gonna drag it slightly to the left here. Alright folks, so let's start with ipconfig. If I type that in, it's gonna show you this machine's basic network information. Press enter, there you go. You can see it shows me this machine's basic network information. It's IP, subnet mask, and its default gateway. If you want to clear this window, I mean besides closing it and reopening it, you can actually just go and type in CLS. CLS clears the window. Something that a lot of people don't know. Most technicians don't even know that command, mind you. So instead of having to close command prompt and open it again, you can literally just go and type in CLS. The next command is ipconfig /all Same as the previous one, except it's going to show us a lot more info now. You can see way more information, folks. So previously, we only saw that part there. Yeah, about that part there. Now we see a boatload of other information here as well, in terms of networking and configuration and all that. Once again, let's run CLS. The other commands we had was ipconfig /release. I'm not going to hit enter because you can see at the moment I don't even have internet on this virtual machine to begin with. So that would normally have released my IP address if I had a dynamic IP. After running that command, I would then have to go and type in ipconfig renew, and it's going to ask for an IP. The release command is the same as shutting down your PC. The renew command is the same as starting your PC back up and asking for a new IP address. When you get ipconfig flush DNS, which is going to erase your DNS cache. So if your PC is remembering the wrong address for websites or the wrong address for PC names, then that's the way to go and flush that, guys. As for the ping command, I don't think it's actually going to work now because this machine is not connected to anything. So, but let's show you guys anyway. So ping command, I'm going to ping Google. It's probably not going to go through because as you guys can see at the bottom, I'm not connected. So let's see what it does. It's going to send 4 packets of data and probably all 4 of them are not going to reply. So if I hit enter, you see it doesn't even work. So that means there's a problem. In this case, I can already see there's a problem here at the bottom right. Let me open command prompt for just a moment on a real machine that actually is connected to the internet. So let me just quickly switch over to a real machine.
A few moments later.
Right, folks, here we are on a real machine. So if I go and type in ping www.google.com now, check this out. You get a reply, which is what we want to see. So 4 replies is good. We want to see 4 replies, but at the same time, we want to look at how long it takes. You can see it's single-digit milliseconds. That's very good. So double digits is not too bad, but ideally we want to see single digits. If you start seeing triple digits, then you've got latency on your network. That means this object is very far away, digitally speaking. Something else you guys can go and do here to not just check if there's connectivity, but to see if there's packet loss or interference, is you go and type the ping command, and then follow through with a space -t. That means it's going to keep pinging and pinging and pinging until you or somebody cancels this at some point in time. At the moment, I can see my connection is nice and crispy. It's nice and fast. It's stable. It's staying on single digits. But if I were to see one of these digits suddenly increasing to like triple digits, quadruple digits, that means there's suddenly latency on the network. So I can see if there's latency, if the latency is going up or down. If ever so often it's a packet that's just getting lost, let's say every 10th packet or every 20th packet is getting lost, there's packet loss then. And I need to figure out why that might be. It could be because of interference. It could be because of a whole bunch of other things as well. Alright, so that is the ping command, guys. Now, the ping command is referred to as the echo protocol, in case you guys don't know. Why do we call it the echo protocol? Because it's based on submarines. If you guys ever seen a movie or an episode that's got submarines in it, you'll see them looking at the radar. It's going to send out like a pulse. It sends out like an echo. And if that echo hits something solid, like metal, it'll obviously bounce back and tell them that there's something there or someone there. Depending on how long the echo takes to get back, that'll tell them how far away this object actually is. So that is the echo protocol. And if you go listen to what sound that radar makes, it goes ping, ping, which is why we call this thing ping as well. Alright, folks, let me go and do a new one for you guys. Let's type in who am I. There we go. You can see this one tells me what my machine's name is. Another one we can go and do is to run the tracert command. Tracert. Let's trace. Tracert. Let's trace Google. Google.com. And I'm going to hit enter. It's going to trace it up to a maximum of 30 hops, but you'll find often it's going to be 10 or less. So let's just give it a moment to do its thing. And there we go, folks. Alright, so I'm going to blur out some of those IP addresses there, obviously, to a certain extent, because otherwise you guys are going to trace me. So if anybody knows something about something, you'll probably be able to trace me using that. So, joke's on you. It's not going to work. But yeah, you get the idea. So it's going to show me, you can see this was up to 8 hops. Most of those are routers that I had to go through, but some of them might potentially be a firewall. So the first one is inside my home. That's the IP address of my router. The second one will tend to be my ISP. So you can see it was nice and fast there. The third one might potentially be beyond my ISP. So if it drops at the third hop or the fourth hop, then I know, okay, you know what? It doesn't even help for me to go and contact the ISP. It's going to be beyond the ISP. I just need to wait for the problem to resolve itself. It's someone further up the chain that needs to go and resolve this. Right, I think let's go back to our little presentation and look at some more commands. Right, so we pretty much covered all of these guys. I'm going to take you through to system management command line commands now. So this would be things like the check disk command, something I did explain earlier via the graphical interface. So when we looked at, disk maintenance tools, I showed you guys the defragmentation tool, and then I also showed you guys another tool that was there. I told you guys that's the check disk command. Checks for damaged clusters and sectors. So if you want, you can go and run this via command prompt, which is normally what the technicians will go and do because it gives us more options. You can go and add parameters then as to what needs to be scanned, what not, to go and fix it, to repair it, and. So all you need to do is just go to command prompt, specify the drive letter. So if I'm on drive C, I need to make sure that this needs to happen on drive C. You type in check disk, and that's it. Straightforward, guys. It's going to check that hard drive if there's any damaged clusters or sectors. It might potentially take half an hour or more to go and scan it, by the way. Then you get commands like the sfc/scan now command. This command is generally used to check your computer's integrity, your operating system's integrity. So instead of checking the hard drive like the check disk command, the check disk just checks for damaged clusters and sectors. This one will check the actual operating system and stuff in your machine. So if there's now corrupt files or corruption in your operating system or something just in general funky or wrong in your operating system, that's the command you're going to go and use. It's going to go and check what your operating system looks like at the moment versus what it's supposed to look like. And it's going to go and add any missing files, remove files that's been added, or if something has been changed, it'll go and change them back. The last command, which has got a couple of sub-commands I want to talk to you guys with, is shutdown command. The shutdown command, guys, is more of a category. It's not a command. It's, in fact, a collection of commands. The first one we get is a command you go and type into command prompt. It is shutdown space -s. That is to shut down the PC. So the actual shutdown in the front is not what shuts down the PC. It's the S. The S is to power off the machine. If you were to, for example, go and type in shutdown -R, that would be to restart the machine. The R specifies its restart. So this shutdown we type in the front is basically an umbrella effect. And the little letter at the back of that is what specifies what actually happens. You also get shutdown -H, which is to hibernate. And you get shutdown -L, which is to log off the machine. And what you can go and do is you can actually go and add on to this. If you go and type in shutdown, let's say space -S, which is to shut down, and you follow through with another space and a -T, then you go and type in 03, it tells the machine to shut down in 3 seconds. So the T is the timer, how long it takes to shut down the machine. So if that doesn't make sense to you guys, let me show you guys here on command prompt. There we are on my virtual machine. So I'm going to go and type in shutdown -S. That's going to shut down the PC. And if I type -T space 03, that tells this machine to shut down in 3 seconds. It gives you time to cancel if you don't want to run it. So I'm going to actually hit enter here because I'm done with this virtual machine now. We're done with this module. So let me show you guys what pops up once I press enter. And then we'll go back to the slide. Here we go. You can see it says you're about to be signed out. Boom. PC shut down. Done. PC's off. Nearly instantaneous, isn't it? Right, folks, we have reached the end of the third and the last section in this module. If you guys want to go back to a specific topic, you can go and find that in the video description down below. There's nice, convenient timestamps there for you guys. If you would like to sponsor or support this video in some sort of way, you can do that also in the video description down below. You can click on the thanks button below the video if it's available in your country. You can make a PayPal donation. You can become a Patreon. If you do become a Patreon, you do normally get access to additional material depending on what tier you pick. So if you pick tier 2 or tier 3, then you'll start getting material, you know, practice questions and things like that. Anyway, folks, I really hope you've enjoyed this module. It's a bit of a long one. It's a bit of a doozy, but it had a lot of practical in it. If you've enjoyed it, if you've learned something, do me a favor. I did put a lot of effort into this video. Give the video a like to show your appreciation. And if you'd like to know when the next module goes live, maybe subscribe as well, guys. I do appreciate the support. Speaking of support, thank you to all the supporters. Thank you to those of you making donations. Thank you to the PayPal supporters. There's a list of those that make PayPal donations. Thank you very much, guys. Do appreciate that. And then the Patreons, at least the ones that said they wanted to have the names displayed, here is the list of the Patreons. Most of the Patreons normally opt to stay anonymous. But for those of you that did say I can display your names, there you go. There's your names. Thank you very much, guys. And for those of you that are obviously staying anonymous, thanks to you guys as well. You know who you are. Lastly, folks, in case you don't know or if you don't remember, the channel does have a Discord server. It's called Free IT Training. The link is in the video description down below as well. It's literally the very last link in the video description. It's an IT community of like-minded people. I'm in there. Other IT trainers are in there. People studying for this course are in there. People that finished this course are in there. So if you want to ask questions, somebody will be there to assist you. Or if you want to help other people with their questions, you're welcome to do that as well. Alright, folks, I will see you in Module 14 of the CompTIA A+ course.